Hello, Brian.
Hello, Miss Krista. What's up?
Not much. So
Mhm.
we are back. Well, I know we missed last week, but it was a busy weekend for us. And Brian got to go on an overnight camping trip with
Yeah.
his men's group. So he was up all night. And then
It's cold.
so we just felt like it was the best thing to just skip a weekend.
Yeah,
So sorry about that,
it
guys.
wouldn't have been good.
And we are trying yet another setup. We'll see if this one works any better. Hopefully you can hear me. My voice just doesn't carry very well, guys. I'm trying. It just doesn't. So good thing I'm an elementary teacher and not a high school teacher or professor, I guess. Um, anyways, so welcome back. What do you have set for us today?
Yeah, so it is good to be back. Just like she said, last Saturday, we went camping Friday night with our men's group from church, and we were doing Wild at Heart. And part of that, after session number 6 out of 8, all the guys go on a camping trip
Hmm.
to show how manly that they are. Turns out, I'm still not very manly, as it turns out.
Oh,
It was
you're
cold. It
manly.
was freezing. Everybody was making fun of me. Which makes sense, but it was pretty cold. It got down to like 45 or so, but I didn't sleep a wink, and so
Yeah.
I was a dummy last Saturday for sure. So I had lunch with a good friend and pastor earlier this week, and we were just kind of chatting about some stuff, and I just blurted out a phrase that just kind of jumped out, and we both just kind of stopped and thought it was a really, really good topic, and the topic is how everything can get really, really old, but for some reason, God always seems fresh.
Hmm.
Like things can get really old. You get used to them. They get boring. They get like
Mundane.
that mundane. Yeah,
Yeah.
but man, God's not that way.
No.
It's kind of crazy. And so I've titled today's message "More Than Enough."
Hmm.
Is what I titled it. And so I'm really, really excited to get into it. But just a little bit of housekeeping stuff, just starting off. We would like to ask if you'd like, please subscribe to us here, and you'll get notifications each and every time that a new video is popped up. And then also, a lot of people don't know this, but we also are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that. So if you can't, be driving and watching videos or whatever, you can also go out there and subscribe to the podcast if you just want
Yeah.
to hear the audio
Perfect.
version of us. Yeah, indeed. And I also want to mention our website, which I don't talk about too much, but it's conformed to transformed.com. And from
Hmm.
there, it pretty much just links you to all of our platforms.
Yeah.
It has a couple of blog entries and like the latest videos that we do and stuff like that. And also, just wanted to nail down again, like I do every single time, that the whole theme verse, I guess, Romans 12:2. Of course, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, and so with that being said, before I get into it, and I will say before we do this, Krista really doesn't have a general idea. Like she has a somewhat of a general idea what I want to talk about. We really don't
Yeah.
discuss this before we do it. We like for it to be raw and kind of on the spot, and I like putting her on the spot. It's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Kind of like when I'm teaching, I have bullet points, but I'm not
Yeah,
reading it. I don't type out my whole script word
yeah,
for word. That would be
indeed.
kind of boring to listen to.
Yeah, so what do you think of this topic? Before I dive into the notes that I had and just the things that I just kind of wanted to get off my chest and what God laid on my heart this week. What do you think?
I think that's what, at the end of the day, what it comes down to because we all struggle with trusting God.
Yeah.
And, but I think once we do and we trust Him, then and we put all our faith in him, then all those exciting things start to happen and the transformation takes place and it's a ongoing
Yeah.
constantly. So it
Yeah.
never stops and that's what makes it exciting.
It's like a muscle that you build that never gets perfect.
Right.
Right. It's like when you go to the gym and you're working on
Right.
biceps or tricep or whatever. Like it always gets better
Right.
and better and like
And I
yeah.
think that's the very reason that the enemy puts thoughts into our head that makes it difficult for us to trust him.
Yeah.
Because once we do and you taste it and what it's like, then absolutely it's never old. It's
Yeah.
always
And that's what we're
fresh
going
and
to get
new.
into. You,
Yep.
you you just touched on something very, very good. And so kind of what me and my friend Andy were talking about, and it's so true that like one of these days you're gonna get rid of your car. Your
Hmm.
car is gonna run out of time. Our time on this earth is going to run out. Everything runs out. Food runs out. The newness of relationships runs out. Sex runs out eventually, at a certain age. Like that goes away. Everything in this world that we look at and we think is absolutely amazing, it's all temporary. It's all fleeting. We're going to run out of time. We're all going to die one of these days, barring Jesus coming back to get all of us. But it's a sure thing. It's going to run out. But God never runs out. Never
Right.
runs out. And so I just wanted today to just be a refresher and just a reminder that for us to not be relying on things,
Of course.
not to rely on things, but to rely on God. And it's so easy to start relying on things, especially if you're not from this area, if you're watching from afar, just this Hamilton County area, like we are very, very focused on things. We say it all the time that like life around here is not normal compared to the rest of the world. This is
No.
like I don't want to say fantasy land, but like it's just, I don't know. We put our trust in,
Pleasantville.
yeah, Pleasantville. Yeah, we kind of put our hope and our trust in things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And me and my obsession with Solomon and all of that. He wrote about it tons in Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Is like all of this stuff, all of these
Yeah.
things. I've tried it all, and everything is vanity. That's what
Yeah.
he kept screaming over and over and over again. And so, ironically, the way this works out, and again, the kingdom being backwards as it is that God is looking for people who are humble enough and weak enough to depend on Him being strong for them.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
so, do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think sometimes that's why he's still there. He's walking that path with you, but that's
Yeah.
why sometimes he has to, he doesn't necessarily intend to break you down, but he allows you to be broken down to the point where you're forced to depend on him sometimes.
Yeah.
I know that happened to me. I can speak to that. So, he, I was at my wit's end and saying, why God me? Why God? Why? Because generally, overall, I've been a good person. I haven't always walked in faith, but I've never been this terrible crime committing person. I'm generally love people
Yeah.
for my entire life. And so when you were on your last bender, I broke down and just surrendered 100% to God, and to the point of collapsing on the ground and calling out to him. And I remember just singing, "Our God is an awesome God," at the top of my lungs, and just knowing that he was going to take care of me no matter what.
Yeah, and that's pretty ironic because that very next day was the day that I broke down completely.
Yep.
And I finally realized that I can't do it on my own.
Right.
So it's really weird how that all coincided. I mean, maybe
It
it's
is.
partly your prayer and
Right.
just partly like it just finally clicked with me that, I had just done it enough and it had become completely blatantly obvious that God had saved my life a
Right.
million times.
Right.
And I finally was just like, okay, all
And
right, man, I'm yours. And so,
the crazy
yeah.
part for me is I, at that moment, felt a peace coming over me, but I felt a peace coming over me and the fact that with the outcome being that I would be okay as a single mom again, and how
Yeah.
I was going to rebound financially and just mourn the loss of you and get over it. And then God did something even better.
Yeah.
So when
Tell me
we
about
lean
it.
into him and we fully hand things over to him, he takes care of us
Yeah.
in ways that we didn't even see possible. Because I would have never have been able to imagine that you would just the next day,
Right.
because we had been through so much.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
it truly is a miracle story.
It is. It is. And you mentioned that peace.
Uh-huh.
I had that
Yeah.
next morning whenever finally on that May 5th. And then also because we went out to lunch.
Right.
We had went and I had checked myself into outpatient rehab. You went with me. And I had told you, I was like, I know that this is it, that this is it. And you're
Right.
like, whatever, dude, because I'd said it a million times
Right.
before. But that same peace that you had, I also had because that light bulb, just that, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. And I've been at peace like that ever since, just
Right.
because I know for a fact that I'm never touching that stuff again. And living in this
Mm-hmm.
freedom is just absolutely nuts. And God's
Right.
just pouring it on more and more every day.
Right.
I mean, I go for these long walks in the morning and stuff, and just blast praise and worship music, and just talk to Him, and just like every single day, where I'm just like, man, I just need you. Like He just shows up even more and more and more.
Right.
It
It may
never
not
ends. It
he
never
may
ends.
not show up the way you're expecting,
Nobody will though.
but he shows up. And
Yeah.
when he shows up, it's even better the way than
Right.
what you were expecting.
And what's really cool is whenever he shows up in ways that you're not expecting, it's a huge surprise, and it just makes you say, "Whoa, okay, I see what you did there. That's just kind of
Right.
amazing." And he does that just to show off, I guess.
Yeah.
Showing
No.
off. No, yeah, I mean in a good way. I think
Yeah.
our God shows off in a good way sometimes.
Yeah.
And He uses us to do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so we're going to be spitting a lot of verses out of Isaiah today. Isaiah is so cool. So if you haven't read through it, I know a lot of people, and it took a long time for me to come around, but the Old Testament is just full of a lot of crazy things. And
I agree.
if you read Isaiah and the way that it prophesied, like Isaiah could easily be in the New Testament,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, because of just all the prophetic things. But Isaiah 40:28 says this. It says, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable." And so, what stood out to me is the everlasting God never runs out, never ends, always new, and He does not faint or He does not grow weary, even though we do.
Right.
He just never does. And He wants to be that strength for us.
Uh-huh.
He wants us to go to Him and be like, "Hey, man, I am weak. You are strong.
Right.
Like, hook me up here."
Yeah.
And He always will. And so, based on that verse, what does that mean? Let's go a couple verses down in chapter 40 and then 29 through 31. Just bear with me as I read this. And this is powerful, so just let this soak in. I'm going to read it slow. "He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, He increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." In other words, He has unending energy, unending love, unending everything that you need that you don't have.
Right.
And that just jumps out at me. And it's just, again, He's more than enough. He's always more than enough,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Absolutely. And I have been reminded a time and time again lately about, and I have shirts that say this. I'm even wearing one today. But God is still writing our story, and He wrote our story. So we need to quit trying to still the pen. And
I love that quote.
I do too.
You said it last
And something today that stood out to me is I have a picture hanging on the wall in the by the front entry that is of my girls when they were smaller, and their time has flown by, and they're older teenagers now. And it would be easy to say that I think all moms do this. It would be easy to say I have some regret in the choices that I made. But God wrote their story even before they were born.
Yep.
And
Yep,
my imperfections are part of their story.
that's right.
And as long as I love them with all my heart, and I continue to try the very best that I can, my shortcomings again are part of their story, and I should not feel I'm letting go of the guilt.
Yeah.
And forgiving myself for those things, because God has forgiven me, so I have to forgive myself, and
is very
that's their
true.
testimony, not mine.
Yeah,
So, and God knew that story before they were even born.
yeah, that's so true.
Yep.
And He wants to use, which it just kind of leads into my next sentence here in
Yep.
just a few. He wants to use our imperfections to show His perfection.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's just another marvelous thing about Him is
Right.
that, hey, I know that I'm screwed up, but you're not, and the amount of stuff that we've accomplished over this last 498 days. Side note, Monday, 500 days for me, but it feels like forever, but then at the same time, it's amazing to look and see what God has done with us
Yeah.
in that short period of time. And I'm not saying that to brag or to boast. I am saying that because it is completely obvious
Yes.
that I cannot do this.
Yes.
But He can do crazy things.
Yes.
God is an accelerator. He pours kerosene
Yeah.
on the fire of your life. And all you got to do is seek him and
Yeah.
accept a gift that he's just handing to you.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't take a Maserati that was
Yeah.
being handed to them?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that is all four of our children. All
Oh,
four.
yeah,
That is part of their
for
story,
sure.
is witnessing the change in
Yeah.
both of us in the past year. Most of them, I think
Yeah.
all of them, have said something at some point
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And
Caden definitely has.
this,
I'm so
yeah,
proud of him,
yeah.
man. It's, yeah.
So, I mean, which is crazy. Like, that's going to be a huge testimony for them. And
Yeah, part of their story is going to be talking about how screwed
yeah.
up that we were and then
So
rely
just
on God to fix
every,
it.
God is in every little
He is
detail.
in every little detail. We were talking about that
Hmm.
last night in our circle here.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful group of people at our house last night that we go to
Hmm.
church with and just friends and just sharing life together. And you know, the ultimate theme around everybody, we're like, what can we be praying for you for? And the common theme was trust in him more.
Yeah.
Trust in him more. Even though we've all seen him do amazing things, miraculous things, it's just so crazy that he can show out and
Hmm.
flex and it's all awesome. And then 3 days later, you're like, where are you? And it's just crazy. It's
And
like human nature. We trust one day and then the next day we have very little faith.
yeah, and I said this last night, and I truly, truly believe it. I truly believe that God is calling on all Christians to trust Him
Yeah.
without wavering.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is we're going to have to be really, really strong in the coming days. I just know it.
Yeah.
You can't watch the news and not feel it.
There's going to be some
You
separation.
can't be on social media and not see it. The division, things. I just think that we are going to have to be very, very strong in our faith. And so he is putting things in place that are forcing us to trust him,
Yeah.
because I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it from people whether they've been Christians for a year or whether they've been Christians for 20.
Yeah.
He is teaching us to have unwavering faith because we're going to have to be strong in the days ahead. And I'm looking forward to it because I feel like I have that unwavering faith.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what that faith brings.
Yeah.
And the
Good
faith
things.
of the Christians all around, because I know in the end God wins.
Mm.
So that faith is going to be magical and miraculous. So
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, just coming up.
Yeah.
I think he's about to separate the contenders from the pretenders.
yep, I do
If
too.
that
And
makes
I do,
sense. And
I do too.
There's a lot of both.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of both, and I want to be on the right side of it.
Yeah. Well,
And I want to bring as many people into the boat with me as I can. And I think that's what it's all about.
that is exactly what it's all
Yep.
about. And yeah, I mean, our whole mission, we were watching that documentary the other night. One is to see other people the way that Jesus sees them.
Mm-hmm.
We're not good at that.
No, we're not.
Especially Christians.
We're not.
We get bashed all the time for like being super judgmental, and it's absolutely true. We're some
Yep.
of the most judgmental people
Yep.
on the planet. When really, I mean, yes, theologically there are things that you should stand for, things that
Right.
you should be against, and things like that. But Jesus, he sat down and like he hung out with everybody. He opened the door and said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, let's hang out." Like
Yeah.
people that we would look at and just be like, I don't know, they're
Yeah.
not my people. Everybody is his people.
Yeah.
Absolutely everybody. And so, yeah,
And I think that's part of the reason God has put this on us.
yeah,
Yeah, because we are both. He had brought us together, and we both have a love for people.
yeah,
that's-
most definitely, yeah.
um,
And I knew that this was going to be a thing.
Pretty great.
That day that I started my recovery, that May
Yeah.
5th, I was like, I'm gonna do something. And you know me, like I get excited. When I get excited about something, I don't let go. But like I knew, like that day or that week,
Yeah.
that like I was gonna do something. I knew it was gonna take time. It was gonna be a matter of time. Nobody's gonna take the advice of somebody that's been in recovery for 8 days,
Right,
right?
right,
You know,
right,
but.
right.
I think that I've proven that this is for real, that I have tasted and seen
Mm-hmm.
just how absolutely amazing that he is, and just how weary and how tired and just how broke down, and I was just tired of being tired, and
Yeah.
is just every single day was just awful. It was
Yeah.
just absolutely awful. And so my next phrase that I think kind of plays into this, the inexhaustible hand of God, great news for the exhausted.
Yeah.
Great news for the weary, heavy laden, those who labor, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what I was going to say is he's actually on the lookout. He's always seeking for people who are humble enough and weak enough for him to be strong for them.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely relishes
Like
that.
I I am honored and just like I said, just humble about it, but I'm still honored that he has called me and you to this
Yeah,
purpose. And I'm honored that he gave me that lens where I love people and I see people. Um, it's a gift, and I'm blessed to have it. And thank you because
yeah,
I love it. It just fills my cup, and um, I praise and thank the Lord for it.
yeah. No, it's awesome. I
Hmm.
mean, he put something special in every one of us as far as
Absolutely.
I don't know if the fruit of the spirit is the right term for it, but gifts,
Yep. Yep.
things that we can all do. Like you
Yep.
can do things that I can't, and vice versa. And so, again, going back to Isaiah, I'm
Yep.
going to spit another verse here. I'm going to Isaiah chapter 64. Let's look at verse 4 where it says, from of old, sorry, no one has heard or perceived by the ear, no eye has seen a God besides you who acts for those who wait for him.
Yeah.
And that goes back to trusting him and how that he is more than enough. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm on an Isaiah kick this morning. I started putting together these notes for this morning, and for some reason I was led to Isaiah, and there's stuff all over Isaiah
Yes.
about
Yes.
this. And so, he takes pleasure in working for us, rather than having us work for him, because he gets the glory
Yeah.
in that. And our whole lives, our whole Christian walk is to, one, bring God glory, but to show other people his glory through us.
Right.
That's why we're here, we're his vessels. And
That's
so
why it doesn't seem like work.
no, it doesn't seem like
No.
work. They say that people that if you get up in the morning and you're like super excited to do what you
Yeah.
do, it's called being in the flow
Right.
as
Yep.
well. Like 3 hours can go by and you look back and you're like, what was that you were doing? What you really, really, really love to
Right.
do. And so, yeah, it
Right.
doesn't feel like work.
It does
It
not feel
just
like
feels like
work
an
because
awesome
we're just
life.
a vessel.
Yeah,
And
but it's beautiful though.
yeah, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, and so through no shocking alert here, going back to Isaiah, chapter 55, it says, "Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price." And so, what I'm saying is that, like, all of this is free. He wants to give this to you. He wants you to trust in him, and he wants to show out and like
Yeah.
show you what he can do through you if you just trust him, and that he's always enough.
Yeah.
He's always enough, no
He's
matter
writing
what.
your story. Quit trying to steal the pen.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you need to make a shirt. Do you have a shirt of that?
My shirt says it right now.
Oh, the one you're wearing right now?
Yeah.
I just saw God in like 84 point font. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
actually
yeah.
read the rest of it. Okay. And so, again, just kind of going back to it, everything else runs out. God never runs out.
Yeah.
And, he's going to be giving and giving and giving throughout all eternity. And all that we got to do is just receive it. Like with childlike faith. Like,
Yeah.
remember whenever your kids were, if you handed them candy or you gave them money or you did anything like that, just how excited
Yeah.
that they absolutely were. And he wants to
Yeah.
do that for us all the time. And us as stupid humans, we just don't let him do it.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't let him do it. And so,
And
I-
again, it's about the relationship. It's not about religion.
correct.
It's
Yeah.
about having a.
Yeah.
He wants a relationship with you, and he wants the relationship he has with you to be the seed planted for others to have a relationship with him. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And once you get closer and you realize that he's more than enough and you start trusting him, whenever bad things happen in your life, you don't start singing the woe is me stuff. What you
Right.
start doing is like, okay, God, I see what you're doing. Maybe you're stopping me from making a mistake here. Maybe there's a door that I think is open,
Yeah.
but you're actually slamming it shut. And maybe you're protecting me from something.
Right.
We were chatting about that last night with a
Yeah.
couple of people. Like, what if what you think is a bad thing, he's actually saving your life?
Right.
There's probably a lot of things in my life that I wanted that's probably a really, really good thing that I didn't get.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, I mean, so God protects us, but do you see that perspective shift?
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, whenever you start trusting him more, you're not like, oh man, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. You're thinking, okay, God, like,
Of course.
little disappointed here, but I'm also trusting in the fact that you have something much, much better for me, and I'm going to thank you for it, and I'm going to give you all the glory for
Yep.
it. And so that's what happens when you start trusting him and starting to realize that he is more than you'll ever need.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so the enemy is really, really good at this. I remember some people at the church, and they just didn't know how excited that I was about quitting my drinking and all of that other stuff. But they would always come up to me and be like, "Don't let the devil bring up your past. Don't let the enemy bring up your past." You know, that really hasn't reared its ugly head in my life. But I know that I mean, everybody does it. They have regrets. They think about things. I try not to think about the past, and it really doesn't affect me that much anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm focused on now. And so, but when the enemy tries to replay all of your mistakes and the sins in your mind, you know, like an old classic movie, like it just keeps running through your head. And I've got friends that do this all the time. Like, it bugs them, it sticks with them, and they just cannot let it go. And you start to feel that you're not worthy of God's love. First of all, you're right.
Right.
We're not worthy of God's love at all, but it gives it to us anyway. And so, again, I'm just rambling just to come back to the same point that when God is on our side, we don't need anything else. We don't need anything else at all. But however, we are blessed with friends and, you know, fellow believers, you know, that we go to church with, and we'll sing this from the mountaintop. We love our church.
Yeah.
I love the people in our church. There's some very, very special things happening in there right now.
Yep.
But you know, it's just a refreshing blessing having those friends.
Yeah.
But once you realize you don't need anything else besides him, you're kind of set.
Yeah.
Like he always provides. We talked about that again last night. I just
Yeah.
all of these things, and I keep saying all of these things that we kept bringing up, but this is what close, good,
I
believing
think as
friends
humans,
do.
we need other things besides him, but he's at the center of everything.
Well, yeah, we need food.
Yeah. Well, as humans, we
Yes.
need other people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
100%.
we're not meant to be alone.
We're not meant to be alone.
Yeah, of course not. He even
So
said that.
we need other things and people for sure, but he needs to be at the center of all of it. Like last night, we shared our highs and lows, and I said one of my highs is our marriage. We're just growing closer. And
Every day. Yeah, we are getting closer and closer.
our marriage is
It's
just
different.
different. And I feel like it's because we're in a marriage of 3 now,
Yeah,
with Christ being the center of our
he's
marriage.
our focus.
So he's a part of our marriage now as well, and I think that's what it is. It
makes all the difference.
If he is the center of everything that you do, then that's all you need.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like you can't just sit in a cave and just pray. Like you'll be dead in about a week.
Yeah, no. And
Right.
I'm not just talking about food and shelter. I'm
Yeah, I
talking
know.
about,
You're talking about human relationship.
well, yeah, you're not meant to walk alone.
Right, exactly. And all you got to do is seek him out. Like all of this seems, I don't want to say dumbed down, but it kind of is. I mean, Jesus explained the gospel to where 4-year-olds can understand it on purpose. You know, he wants us to have that childlike faith because you notice how kids, whenever they're little, they use their imagination like crazy. You know, like Muppet Babies was one of my favorite shows. It's so cool because they just imagined all of these things are happening.
Baby.
Yeah, I love that song. But anyway, as we get older, we get more and more stuff in our head. Like our imagination goes away, our faith goes away. Kids will believe anything.
Yeah.
Like they have magical brains whenever it comes to that stuff. And so we've got to get back to just trusting him. Just trusting him. Proverbs 21 actually tells us that whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life,
Yeah.
righteousness, and honor. Think about how simple that is right there. Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life, righteousness, and honor. You seek, ... you find.
And I'm just going to say it again. I really think that he's raising up an army of Christians that have faith, unwavering faith. And I think it's because he knows we're going to need it. And I truly believe that. So you need to have faith in these little things, because I think that there's going to be some big things where you really are going to have faith soon. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to say about that.
You got to learn how to trust in him and to just not waver whenever the first bad thing happens. You know, just you can't go to church just because you think it's a neat thing to do and that it looks good on your Instagram.
Right.
And it, you know, just kind of showing off.
So I guess start trusting him with the little things, so that when the big things come,
Yeah.
you can trust him.
Yeah, I mean, life is all about trusting with the little things every single day, and that's why, like, I'm telling you something in my life now, like, in the morning, my praise and worship time and my time with God, that's a non-negotiable. Like, I have to do that now. I started doing that consistently when my recovery started, but now it's something that I can't not do.
Right.
If I'm late for work, I'm late for work. If I don't get to hang out with you for a little bit, whatever, like, that's something that is non-negotiable. And I do that because I have to do that. It sets the tone for my brain and for my spirit throughout the day to be on the lookout for him. And he is in everything.
Yeah.
He is in all the tiny little details. You know, people think that God is just in the big things, like, you know, the wars and the elections and our kids
Yeah.
graduating and all that. No, that's not true. God's in our dinner tonight.
Yeah.
God is in whatever we're going to do tonight, you know, spending time together. He's just in absolutely
We're
everything.
all a David in a Goliath world.
Hey, yeah, well said. You're full of good quotes today.
We are.
I don't know what you had for breakfast, but anyway. But God has a perfect, God has a perfect idea and perfect plan for our lives. We're the ones that screw it up. And, you know, he knew us before the foundations of the world, and he wants us to seek him out. He wants us to know that he is more than enough. And yes, this world is full of amazing things that he wants us to enjoy as
course.
well. Like, there's beauty in absolutely everything, and you can see God in everything. But yeah, he's got a perfect plan. And kind of like before my recovery started, you know, I thought about God all the time. I was like, I know that I need to do this, but it seemed boring. It seemed non-exciting. But it's not. I can tell you it's the other way. Like, he constantly showing off, and it's just, this life is amazing.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's why I am not criticizing religion at all. I'm just saying you have to, the religion part is what puts that boring message in your head.
Yeah, it's a list of rules that
So
we can
you
never
have got to get over the religion part and focus on the relationship part.
keep. Yeah.
And once you do that, you'll be like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
this
To
is
me,
amazing.
to me, all that religion is just a list of a bunch of stuff that we can never live up to.
Right.
I think it's like designed to beat people down, to just make them feel less than. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I think that the intentions are good. We all need accountability.
Yeah.
And I think there's some accountability in it. It's just a really fine line between it. You cannot put religion above relationship. And that's why I appreciate our pastor so much, because he focuses on relationship
Yeah.
all
It's the most
time.
important thing. I mean,
It is.
To me, one thing that I just don't like about the quote unquote religion part of it is you can have somebody, there's this huge list of rules, right? Man made rules.
Right.
And somebody that follows 14 of them thinks that they're getting into heaven faster because you only follow 7
Well,
of
of
them.
course. That's
Yeah.
the fine line I'm talking about. But
it's.
I'm not bashing
No, of course not. No.
churches. No, that's not what I'm doing.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that the audience knows what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
And so, yeah, relationship definitely
Trumps everything.
trumps
Yeah,
everything.
because we're supposed to be in a relationship. That's
Yeah.
what God wants with us, and so, yeah. I mean, and He can take any situation, obviously, and He can use it to show us who He is,
Yeah.
to show us that He is more than enough for us. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's absolutely amazing, and just God's love for us, man. It just never runs out. It just never runs out. You know, us as humans, we always have the tendency to feel less than. That's part of what this ministry is all about. This conformed to transformed is to realize that you are amazing, and the only reason you are amazing is because He is amazing.
Yeah.
And us individually, you know, not so much. We treat other people not so good sometimes, and we are going to fall. We're all fallible. But the whole point is He is not. And so, yeah. And I kind of wanted to wrap up here with Lamentations. I'm not in Isaiah. You know, we don't read Lamentations very often. Do you read Lamentations very often?
No.
Not really. That's old school, Old Testament. But anyway, Lamentations chapter 3, this is a verse that I'm pretty sure just about everybody has heard. But the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Something that I love is they are new every single morning. You know how we say that every day is day one.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow morning, whenever you wake up, you know, tomorrow is September 15th. Shout out to my brother. It's his birthday tomorrow. But
Oh,
yeah,
happy birthday, Jason.
yeah. But every single day to me is day one. What that means is that September 15th, 2024 is never going to happen again. There's something that you can do with tomorrow that you're not going to be able to do Monday and that you're not going to be able to do today. And we should treat today like that.
Yeah.
Like today's never going to happen again.
No.
And so one of these days in eternity, whenever we look back, you know, God's going to be like, what did you do with September 14th, 2024? What are you going to say? You know what I mean? I mean, you're not going to remember that day, obviously.
Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like live in the moment, live in the now, be faithful, stay close to Him, And it blows me away that his promises are made new every single morning. That is so refreshing and encouraging to me anyway. And then it ends with great is your faithfulness, which that's a true story as well.
And it's what a great gift. What a great gift God has given us
doesn't
to
have to
like
do
put
this.
all our
Right.
burdens on him.
He doesn't have to do that.
Once you realize that, it's so freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. I mean,
He wants us to cast all our cares upon him.
Yeah, we've had circumstances that have come up in our life. Oh, everybody does. We have lives, we have a home, we have children, we have jobs, we have all of that, and there's just things aren't as like critical emergencies anymore. Whenever something happens, you can just kind of be like, okay, God's got that. You just see it from a different lens. You see it from a different perspective. It's like, okay, that's a shut door, or maybe that's something I'm not supposed to be doing, instead of crying and throwing a temper tantrum and being depressed for 3 weeks about it. Yeah.
I mean, casting all our cares upon him, laying our burdens at his feet.
And he wants us to do this. It's not like we go to him and it's a bother.
Freeing. Yes, it's freeing, and that's what he wants.
It's so freeing. Yeah, this freedom that I'm living, it brings me to tears literally every single day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm serious. It just does. Whenever I think about it and I fathom it, and I try to like contextualize it and just think about it, it makes me emotional because I don't know. He's just so good, man.
And when you do that, and here's the thing, when you do that, it allows you, because if you're not focused on your own torment, and instead you're just giving that to God and give it to God and move on, it frees you up to love other people.
Yeah, of course.
And because otherwise you're too self-absorbed. And that's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
And let me tell you how good it feels. It feels much better to be absorbed, not to be focused on my cares and my burdens, because I gave those to God.
Yeah.
It feels much better to walk in the light and to be able to love on other people.
Yeah,
with my energy. It feels so much better for your energy to go towards those things.
Yeah.
And that's what the relationship with God is, I think.
And God blesses those things.
And God blesses those things.
Yeah, because one of our purposes is to be selfless. Mm-hmm. And what selfless means is what other people are going through is more important than what you are going through. Yeah. One of my goals is to be a selfless father and husband. And what that means is putting you and our children ahead of what I want.
So I'm going to just touch on a little bit of what Pastor Andy was preaching about last Sunday, because it was very powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get too political, but one of the examples that I want to share is casting your cares and burdens about this election, about what's going on in our country. Just give that to God, because so many people are letting that come between them and loving people.
It's destroying families.
It's destroying families. It's tearing people apart. It's ridiculous. So just put that burden and that care about whatever side you're on. Give that to God and love people instead.
Yeah.
Put your energy into loving people. Now, I'm not saying not to educate yourself, not to watch the news. Of course, you need to educate yourself. You need to know what's happening in the world. But leave it at that, and then trust God.
Yeah.
And just stop letting the enemy divide us on this.
And your family,
That's it.
And your family getting destroyed and you having panic attacks is not going to change who the president's going to be.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I've learned to let that go.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. God's in control of absolutely everything.
And God wins at the end. We already know this.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Very well said. Well, that's really all that I had for today. I mean, that just ever since Monday, whenever I had that lunch with him, I've just been like, I have not been able to wait to do this. It's just been super exciting. It's like, man, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. And every single week you're like, what do I talk about next? What do I do? And it's funny because, shocker, you trust him and you seek him out.
Right.
He shows up and he shows you something to talk about. So I think that's really, really cool. Did you have anything else?
No, I just want to remind you, we're all David in a Goliath world.
Yeah, very, very true.
And God is still writing your story. Quit trying to steal the pen.
Yeah, she's trying to trademark this, I feel like.
No, I'm not. That's a shirt I bought, so I stole it from a shirt. But I love it.
Indeed. All right, everybody. Well, hope you enjoy the rest of this day. And thanks for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.